Ladies and gentlemen, are you or a loved one looking for mobility and accessibility solutions in Sudbury? Look no further than Silver Cross Sudbury. Silver Cross Sudbury is your trusted source for a wide range of mobility aids and home accessibility products. They're dedicated to improving your independence and quality of life. Visit their showroom at 760 Notre Dame Avenue or call them at 705-222-0700. Your independence is their priority. A huge thank you to Silver Cross Sudbury, more importantly to Dean and Chantel Jacqueline for all of their support of the Behind the Bench podcast all the way back to day one. We love you both.
The BTB podcast has officially joined forces with SWSE, folks, and things are about to get a whole lot more entertaining. SWSE is turning up the volume on the E, entertainment, and launching a brand new YouTube channel called Sorta Local. It's all about fresh, local content, live streams, news shows, and the kind of fun, off-the-cuff moments you don't want to miss. And yes, the BTB podcast is coming along for the ride. You'll still get the same BTB show you love, but now on a bigger stage. Expect live streams from Wolves games, from our BTB live stage, on-location recordings, guest appearances, and plenty of surprises. It's only the beginning, folks. More details are coming soon on as Sorta Local launches a new wave of shows and events celebrating the best of Sudbury and beyond. Subscribe to Sorta Local on YouTube and be a part of something new, local, and seriously entertaining. Before we start this episode, folks, just wanted to come on here and share a few words of a legendary person that just passed away here in the Sudbury community, specifically Sudbury soccer and hockey community is Joe Davey. A lot of people knew Joe Davey, whether he was reffing, whether he was coaching just in the community. Some people knew him as Santa as well, with that token beard. Joe Davey was an amazing human being. To do what he did for the community, to do what he did for reffing, and he reffed up until his last few months here. Without him, a lot of things don't happen here in Sudbury sports, whether that be games going on, high school games, any type of soccer game, league games, co-ed. It didn't matter. Joe was there to answer the bell all the time and was such a great human. Always greeted you with a smile on the face. Asked you how you were doing, how your family was doing. I had so many fond memories of Joe, and we just want to take a little second here to dedicate this episode to him. Couldn't think of a better human. If we had a few more Joe Davies in this world, the world would be a really better place. So let's not forget Joe. His legacy is going to live on forever here. Rest in peace to an absolute legend. And this edition of BTB Podcast is in his memory. Rest in peace, Joe. Ladies and gentlemen, we are joined by the hosts of the Unlikely Innovators today, a local podcast highlighting stories of innovation in post-secondary education and in the private sector, especially bridging education, research, and community. Steve Gravel joins us alongside five-time returning guest Mike Commito, who is releasing his latest edition of his Hockey 365 series in Bruins 365. I know my dad's going to be excited for that one, Tom. Fellas, welcome to the show. How we doing?
Oh, it's great to be back. Great to be here. This is a podcast crossover episode. This is pretty exciting.
Yes, sir. Little collab action here. Steve, thanks for coming on. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. I didn't know I was following in the great footsteps. I didn't know Mike had been on that often. But,
yeah. Honestly, Steve,
nonetheless.
I didn't know either until Alex just said that. Mike, we had you on probably, 20 episodes in, Jim? It was early.
Yeah, I think it was early, and then it's kind of an annual tradition now at this point, it seems. So appreciate me coming back again.
Yeah, absolutely. As long as you keep publishing these books, man, we're bringing you on every time. But fellas, first of all, congrats. Obviously, some big news coming out of your show, moving to Eastlink here. How did that opportunity come about, and maybe give the people some insight to what the show is all about. On top of that,
Steve,
Yeah.
I'm looking at you.
Yeah. So I'll start where I guess it started. It was a pandemic project for Mike and I. We're both people that thrive on personal interactions, and we were feeling a little lonely. So one of the things we said is, there isn't really a podcast at the time when we thought of it that deals with, innovation in our sector. So why don't we start that up? And the first few episodes were, people in our sector and innovators in their own right. And then it sort of evolved into much more. We started getting bigger and bigger names. And yeah, it culminated with when Mike and I were geeking out a bit, and we asked we took a big swing, so to speak, and we asked Peter Mansbridge to come on, and Peter said yes. And the cool thing about Peter is Mike and I are diligent preppers when it comes to this podcast, and we said, Peter, do you want us to send you some questions? And he said, I don't need no questions. So he went off the fly.
Of course,
but
he's Peter Mansbridge. Of course, he doesn't need any questions.
that's
So-
awesome.
yeah. So from there, it just sort of built and built. And Mike, why don't you tell them about when Eastling approached us? It was not too long ago, but we had a number of episodes below our belt.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing I'd say too, just like which I thought was hilarious from where the journey began to where I'll wrap up where it is now. But like when we first proposed the idea at work, like my boss, who's now our president at Cambrian, she'd never listened to any podcast before. So she had to listen to the first episode and she had nothing to compare it to. So to her, it was either like really bad or really good. But the fact that we're still doing it 5 years later suggests that she obviously thought it was decent enough for us to continue. So we appreciate Cambrian's support and Christine's support. But yeah, we did a workshop with the Chamber of Commerce last year, and we were just talking about the podcast journey. And then Amanda from Eastlink, who does the Wolves podcast, she was in the audience. And we were kind of talking about how like we weren't sure where we were going to do this year. Our production was kind of changing a little bit in terms of how we were going to go about doing the show. And after the talk was over, she's like, we'd love to have you on Eastlink. So that honestly kicked it all off. This was like probably around, November, December of last year. And then we finished up our season. We were taping at the time, and then joined Eastlink in the summer officially, and kicking things off next week or so.
Unreal. That is awesome, fellas. Great work. Great work. Hey, Tom, did you hear what Steve said about prepping? He's
Yeah, I don't
big
do
into
that.
You hear about that?
I don't
You're
do
not a
that.
prepper.
Maybe
You don't
that's
do that.
maybe that's why they're with Eastlink and we're not. Maybe maybe I gotta be a little. I'm letting you down,
Well,
Alex. Sorry.
A little
Yeah.
more diligent, then, but yeah, all good. But looking at the show in a deeper lens here, fellas, I guess how did Cambrian, their mission influence the direction and the tone of the pod here?
Yeah, I think Cambrian was obviously pretty keen on, if we were going to keep doing this show, like that it supports like the college's core values. I think it always aligned with what Steve and I do for work when we work in applied research and innovation, that a lot of the guests we had on were highlighting, people in our community that were doing innovative or entrepreneurial work. And so I think by having them on, sharing their story, promoting what they do, like that helps promote the college, because obviously Steve and I are on the show representing Cambrian. So I think they were always behind it. Obviously, it's fun when we were able to kind of interview some like quasi celebrity or real celebrity guests that, obviously that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with our work. But when you get an opportunity to interview Chris Hadfield, although he is pretty innovative, I would argue. So I think that still fits with what we do. But yeah, they've always really supported us. Again, I think at any point they could have said, all right, guys, like pandemic's over. I'm glad you had fun. Time to wrap it up and do some other stuff with work, especially like there was a time when we were doing episodes weekly. And like you guys know yourselves, like how much of a grind it is to find guests all the time and then keep the conversation going, and getting somebody to produce that weekly and then release it. Like there was a lot of work. And I think people were, rightfully wondering like, what is the ROI on this? But I think based on, everything we hear, and I think the fact that it is, it's something that Steve and I are passionate about. So it is kind of like professional development for us. They've supported, both in terms of letting us do it, but financially they've previously taken on the cost of production when we had to use great resources like Studio 123, who produced our last two to three seasons, and now they're still letting us kind of branch out into the Eastlink family. So no, they've been great, and I think we've been careful, to thread the needle that everything always reflects good on Cambrian. I would say is always the goal. If we're running afoul of the organization, I think that's probably when the Unlikely Innovators comes to an end.
Yeah, I can't believe we've been able to continue doing this without sneaking any F-bombs in there, to be honest with
It's
you.
hard,
So,
Steve? It's pretty hard. I can
it's
relate a
tough.
few times. No,
Yeah, I don't think
sure.
we've had to do any cough button stuff, Mike? Like having to go back and edit anything. I think
No.
the only times we've ever edited anything is when we maybe like got something wrong or our guest really wanted to do like a retake. But
Yeah,
other than that, it's just like it is what it is. It lives how it lives, and we've actually continued that with Eastlink too. We haven't had any editing really of
Great.
anything. Yeah.
that's great. That's good. That's good.
Professionals. Love it.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. One take.
That's
right.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whoever wants to take this one can answer it, but obviously you guys interviewed a wide range of guests and kind of Mikey alluded to it, from academics to obviously industry leaders. Like, what's a story that really like surprised or inspired you when you heard it?
Well, that's a good question, Steve. You're always quick to jump in right away, and now you're
There's
at a
gonna,
loss for words.
yeah. So I mean, we're gonna be
We did a
coming
good
up
job,
on that's a good that was a bit of a stunner for sure. So we're going to be coming up on Remembrance Day, and I know that both Mike and I are frequent watchers around that time of Band of Brothers, and I think one of the sort of highlights for me is when we had Dale Dye from Band of Brothers on. He's obviously started that journey as a military consultant on the project, but then ended up getting casted as Colonel Sink, and I think that we weren't sort of awestruck by, well, at least I wasn't, by his celebrity, but just more about his why he gets up in the morning to do those, and why he wants like military films to be as accurate as possible and as true to the source material as possible. So I think like we were both like, as much as we like Chris Hadfield and the rest, for me that was a really impactful one when we had Dale Dye on. It was he's a living legend. I mean, you look at the war movies and shows of the last 25, 30, 35 years. Dale Dye's been in a lot of the good ones behind the scenes.
I think not even just that, but like he legitimately like revolutionized the way that Hollywood did war films. Like he served in Vietnam, so like he had seen his comrades get shot and killed, and like he'd always taken issue with the way in Hollywood where somebody would get shot like all these times and they would walk backwards, or they keep running, and they would just very dramatic deaths. And he knew that wasn't the case, and like the way that he brought his approach to Hollywood really changed everything. And Saving Private Ryan was like I think it was one of the really first big projects he worked on, and obviously that's a super realistic film, and he went on to work with Spielberg and other directors on all sorts of other projects. But yeah, that was kind of the one where it's like, oh man, like this is Dale Dye. Like this is somebody where whether or not I knew who Dale Dye was when I first watched that movie and those shows, like as you get older and you appreciate everything that he's done, and the fact that he's such a great storyteller. Like the term he used was like he loves telling shaggy dog stories. I still don't know what that means, but I feel like that's kind of I'd love to be
cool.
a shaggy dog storyteller,
Yeah.
In my own right. And we could have just sat with him all day and just listen to his stories. But ultimately we had to cut it off with him and let him go on and get on with his day. But yeah, that was just kind of one of those awestruck moments where you're like, wow, this is wherever the show goes, like this is pretty cool, and we'll always have that.
Yeah, definitely. It's crazy, what opportunities come about from just starting something, and it's pretty cool to see. We've kind of run parallels in terms of when we started. So, yeah, no, that is very cool. Now looking at the education side of things, like both post-secondary and secondary schools, how do you think, and because myself as a teacher as well, how do you think we can foster kids to become local innovators here? How do we do that? What's the blueprint, you think?
Well, I think it's just like encouraging them to think honestly outside the box. Like I think of Steve and I were actually like, we're both, I mean, all of us are Laurentian alums, right? And thinking about like, when I was in undergrad at LU, did I ever think that A, I'd be working in the sector that I'm working in, B, would I have, a podcast that focuses on the things that we focus on? And And honestly, I don't know if if we would have all those things had we not been encouraged to really like think outside the box, market ourselves as broadly as you can. So, I mean, the advice I always have for anybody that wants to do something like whether it's, podcasting, writing a book, or doing whatever, it's just, you just got to jump in and find out, if that's the thing that really moves the needle for you. And I think ultimately, if you're passionate about something, you'll find a way to make time for it. You'll find a way to devote yourself to it. And I think as teachers and educators, especially with, with what you do and what we do at Cambrian, it's just giving, people the support to do that. Even in our jobs, like they could have told us, yeah, that's a great idea for a podcast, but like, you guys don't know anything about podcasting. You don't know how to produce a podcast. No one wants to listen to you. Why would you do this? I think our moms would still have listened to the show, but Cambrian, they let us do it. They supported us, right? And I think that's what we all have a duty to do within our community with the people that we work with, whether it's students at any level or the students at post secondary. It's just giving them, I think, the support and the confidence to go and do those things and make mistakes. And again, I would cringe if we had to go back and listen to episode 1. And I don't think I ever will, but ultimately we've learned a lot. I'm sure you guys have learned a ton as well on this journey, right? That you just got to start and you'll figure it out as you go. And there's always great people that are willing to support you and help you and get better as you kind of progress.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Steve?
and I watched the I don't know if you guys watched the John Candy documentary that came out a few weeks ago, and I'm struck by something that happened in the Uncle Buck film. I don't know if you guys you're a lot younger than us, I think, but in Uncle Buck, so Uncle Buck was looking after his brother's kids for a weekend, and a bunch of hilarity ensues. And John Candy's character, Uncle Buck, went to the school for this meeting, and there was a really like pinch-faced principal there that was talking about how this 6-year-old girl should stop being a silly heart and a dreamer. And I think that's the absolute wrong way to think about education. And just when I watched that again the other day, I said, like how many people have been taught that way, where you got to really be serious about your education from like really young and really dial in. When I think, as Mike said, passion is so important, because as the world is changing, you don't really need to focus as much on the discipline that you study, but more like what drives you and where you can find your path. And that's what we learned with this podcast is people that become some of the greatest innovators didn't start in the track that led them to that job. And that's why we called it the unlikely innovators. It's that sort of winding, snaking path. And if you don't motivate from the beginning, you can kind of stymie some of that. So I wanted to get a bit of Johnny Toronto in there, Mike, for you, because I know you watched that documentary too. So
oh man, I watched that Cinefest. I cried.
Oh man, I cried my eyes out at that thing. That was so nuts.
He was a beauty. He was a beauty.
John Candy, R.I.P.
Big time. Yeah, legend. Yeah, no, that's amazing, boys. Great stuff. Now, I have to ask you guys about this one. You guys recorded a pod in Snow Lab. Correct me if I'm wrong here. Take me through that. What was that experience like?
Well, you guys, so Mike, you might know where I'm going on this one. So the folks that might not know, to enter Snow Lab, you have to take the cage at 6:30 in the morning at Creighton Mine. You go all the way, not to the bottom, but near the bottom. You get off. You have to do a 2-kilometer walk in your mining outfit, and then you got to go and have a shower. And I grew up playing football. I played football in high school. I played football in university, so I'm fine having like the prison style shower. One, it's with my boys in the locker room after a practice, but like when you have to do that, Mike and I are comfortable with each other, but we had like our sound guy, and we got to go through this shower thing, and it's fine if we're just having a shower, but it was the 30-meter
naked march,
the 30-meter naked walk somewhere. So we had the guy that was showing us around, Mike Whitehouse, who was a beauty on the trip we went on there. He said, it was such an awkward way he said it. He said, this is where you disrobe fully. And I'm like, okay, it's not even ambiguous anymore. This is like, so I can't wear like a pinky ring. I can't wear anything, right? So Mike was smart. He went first. So we were just getting the butt shot on the way down. But, then we all had to jump in that shower and then put on hand-me-down underwear with holes in it to get. Anyways, there's that whole rigmarole to get in. But then once you're in on the other side, it's a really unreal experience. You're in, the world's deepest clean room. They're looking at the beginnings of the Earth and the Big Bang in that neutrino observatory. So it was great. We were actually there to to interview. Goodness, her
Jody
name,
Cooley.
Jody Cooley, the executive director, and we think it's the world's deepest podcast. Mike, I don't know if that's an official record, but
Well, we'd looked into like whether or not you can get a Guinness World Record, and again, I think Guinness is not what it was when I was younger, and we used to collect those books. Anybody could get a Guinness record if you're willing to pay the Guinness like adjudicators to come and evaluate your record. So like we'd looked into, could we get a record for World's Deepest Podcast? And you could if you're willing to pay like 24 grand US to have them come and validate it, right? So we can't officially say that it's a Guinness World Record, but we're arguing that it's the world's deepest recorded podcast.
Write the check, Mikey. Come on,
Yeah.
write the check.
Well, Cambrian, write the check.
Yeah.
What are we
Well,
talking about?
never mind Cambrian. Use some of that Hockey 365 cash.
There you go. There you go.
I don't think I sell enough books to be writing those kind of checks.
Okay, so what happened on the way out though? Like, did you is that a stupid question to ask when you were leaving? Like,
Yeah, no shower required. So, but you just got the naked walk back. But I mean, that's fine. I mean, like the crazy thing is, I mean, people who are in the mining sector know this. Like, I think it was the week before, something like that, or a couple weeks before, a month before, they had like a full like lockdown where they had to like go to the refuge station, and they were stuck down there for hours, right? So
yeah, and they're telling us this as we're waiting for the cage, and I'm a little claustrophobic, you know.
no way I would do that. There's no way I would do
so
that.
like when you're 2K underground and you start to realize that there's so much earth above you and there's only one way out, and they're like, well, if the elevator goes down, it's okay. There's a big ladder that we'll climb, you know. And
2 kilometer ladder.
Yeah, 2 kilometer ladder that I'm like, oh my God. But that was fine. But yeah, it's just I knew Steve was going to start with that because it is the most hilarious part. And our usual producer, Paul Hamilton, who's obviously with Sudbury Wolves Sports and Entertainment now, he wasn't there that day. So we had like a different producer, Jeff, who neither of us know very well. So that just kind of ratcheted up like, all
Even
right,
better.
Jeff, like take gear down. Let's go.
Wild. So how do you guys choose your guests, and what makes someone, an unlikely innovator?
Yeah, we've like I think early on, because we were still doing a lot of virtual stuff, like we were just like asking everybody, because you get somebody from California, New York, like you can ask somebody like, like we said earlier, like Chris Hadfield, who's probably not going to be in Sudbury anytime soon. If he is, he's not coming to Cambrian to chat with Steve and I. So I think we were really at first just trying to find those interesting stories, and maybe some of those unique people that we otherwise might not have had a chance to profile. But I think now that, especially like we're with Eastlink and all of our production is happening in Sudbury, we still focus on the people who have had like those innovative careers and they're doing really cool things. But it's also like the people we know they're going to be like good storytellers and have good things to say, right? I mean, we've had repeat guests before because we know that, they always have, great things to say. Like we had Gabe Roy from Stitch and Stone come on again. And again, has a very interesting career path where she went to school at Cambrian in a completely different field and then eventually found her way into retail. And, she just celebrated her 10th anniversary of Stitch. And she's just the best. Like you could talk to Gabe all day because she's so bubbly and fun that, she's just is made to do podcasts or any kind of, recording format. But I think we're always just trying to find people, I think, who represent the theme of the show, but also I think are people in our community that people want to hear from. So I think that's really kind of what we try to do. And there were times, I think, especially when we were virtual, where we'd get emails from like PR companies saying you should have this person on the show. And sometimes they were good suggestions and we would book those people. And then other times you just kind of get these like spam emails that, again, I don't even know if they were real or not, but I think that's kind of where we thought, well, it's cool if people are asking to come on the show, as you guys get as well. I ask you every year, so it's probably not as cool for you when I ask you all the time, but it's always great when people want to go on the show.
Truth comes out. Yeah, I was telling Mike earlier today that our no list is almost as impressive as our yes list. So there's a lot of people that said no that we won't share, but if we would have converted a few of those, it would have been cool too.
Right.
But hey, you never know, right? You never know. You gotta throw that shot out there. Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
well,
100%.
And that's I wanted to ask one more question before Mike asked you about the book, and like obviously very similar time frames like Alex mentioned. We're both 5 years into it, and everyone's kind of got different schedules, family lives, everything. Like, what do you think is the most challenging thing throughout the 5 years that you guys kind of came across, and obviously we're able to push through it.
I think keeping the pace of that one a week was, as Mike said earlier, was really difficult.
Right.
I think when we moved down to monthly, that was a lot more comfortable. I think if you treat it as a hobby, it doesn't really become a chore, and that's what I think we sort of looked at it as. We also both told each other, if it's not fun anymore, we're going to stop doing it. So I think we always knew that would be sort of the way out. The other thing was we sort of kept it fresh. I mean, like in the last two seasons before this one with Eastlink, everything was on location, right? So we weren't
Mhm.
doing the online format. And then that sort of, piques your senses a bit, because it's like now we get to learn about lighting, and you get to learn about, cameras and sound and stuff like that. And we had a lot of great people that were working with us, but then you get to sort of scratch that sort of innovation itch, when you learn like the back end of what producing is and stuff like that. So, but Mike, I'm sure you have other views.
Yeah, well, I agree with all that, but I do really think that because Cambrian like supported us in doing this as part of our job, it was a lot easier to manage the load of all that, right? Because again, if Steve and I had to record these like after hours, which a lot and most podcasts do that, maybe it wouldn't have been as easy at times as it seems to have been, right? Because again, we're doing it after hours, like that's something else that neither of us can do that night. And if you're doing it weekly, then like that's a significant commitment. And so I think by having the resource we had, having somebody who was able to jump in right away and produce, like I don't know anything about producing. I was willing to like use my like iMovie on my Mac and figure it out, like how I would just stitch together like raw audio and video and hope it looked okay. But luckily, Paul Hamilton saved us from ourselves, for the first 3-4 years, and that really helped. And honestly, that I think that is what allowed us to keep going. And then, of course, like these different milestones when we graduated from doing some stuff online to then we got to go on location, see those different spots was always fun to kind of to go see your guests there. And then obviously moving to Eastlink, that just kind of reinvigorates you, right? Again, you guys have got the great setup this year at the Wolves games. And so I'm sure that kind of fires you up after you've been in the journey for 5 years, that you've got something else to do. So Steve and I, being in studio and shooting TV, so to speak, like that was a whole new ball game for us, where we're now having to figure out how to like talk in 8-minute segments because we got to go to commercial break, even though we've never done that before and we're doing it on the fly. So that kind of keeps you like motivated and willing to keep going. And so it's honestly been a joy. So yeah, to Steve's point, we'll keep doing it as long as it's still fun.
Yeah, love that, boy. That's great. Actually, funny you mentioned Paul Hamilton. As you probably know, we're working with him now at with the Wolves and SWSC, and he's been a treat to deal with. And excited to see where that goes. He's really talented. So
he's the Podfather.
Cool. He is the Podfather.
He was our Podfather, and now he's your Podfather.
Oh,
so
yeah.
He's the legend of Paul Hamilton's growing.
Oh yeah, big time.
Yeah, and we love producers, Mike. You said it right. I know Mason, our producer, listening to this, editing it. I when you said iMovie, I'm like, this is so relatable for me. I still don't know because Alex does mostly everything.
Tom can barely get into his phone on a good day, so
yeah. I'm not allowed to post anything. But Mike, let's ask about the book. Obviously, I'm a diehard Leafs fan, so it's hard for me to ask you about this Bruins 365. But congratulations.
Thanks.
Let's talk about it. Obviously, like, how would you compare it to the other ones you've wrote, and what kind of made you kind of start leaning towards doing the Bruins? Obviously, for how historic of a franchise they are, but what what kind of led you to doing this?
Yeah, so I mean, as a Leafs fan, like this was the most painful of the two that I've done non-Leafs. So I did the Habs last year, and I still remember 2021 and that meltdown in its own right, but the Bruins, like 2013, 2018, 2019, 2024, like that's the list that I can, obviously rattle off immediately. And so going through it, like you remember some of these moments more viscerally, and you still have, I think, some of the PTSD from those series. But for me, like I picked the Bruins. The publisher actually wanted me to do a Wings 365. And I said, I don't really want to do the wings. I feel like being a Sudbury guy, went and spent a lot of time at the Beef and Bird on Fridays and then Saturdays for Porchetta Bingo. We had at the time when we were kind of starting to go down this road, like Nick Foligno was playing for the Bruins, where he just wrapped up his time with the Bruins. Bertuzzi played with the Bruins. Eddie Shack played with the Bruins back in the day. And of course, Jerry Topazzini, the founder of the Beef, was a penalty killer specialist with the Bruins. And so I said, I'm going to do the Bruins. I know it's going to be tough, but I just felt I had way more connection to the team based on the culture that we have here in Sudbury. It also helped that, like, when I was in grad school, I spent a lot of time researching black bears and black bear hunting. So I had a lot of Bruin stuff in my house. And so I feel like I had like an emotional connection to the Bruins, even if they have tormented me over the years. So yeah, no, it was something where when it came time to pick, like it was kind of a no-brainer for me. I could have obviously done Rangers or Blackhawks, but it was like, if we're going to keep with the original 6 theme, I got to do Bruins next. And then we'll see where it goes from there. But yeah, it was kind of easy, despite the fact that they have not been kind to our Toronto Maple Leafs.
Too good, man.
You
Too
write
good.
books. I didn't know you write books.
I've managed to keep it out of the podcast for the last 4.5 years.
No self-promotion on there? No way.
I bring it up every few episodes just to get his fix in there. But,
There you go.
if I bring it up, it's okay then, right? It doesn't
He
look
won't even know. He won't even
shameless.
let me talk about hockey on the podcast. Every time hockey comes up, it's a taboo. No, but we have good fun.
Yeah, I love it. Oh, good stuff. Any stories kind of stick out to you on Bruins 365, Mikey?
I think when you write a book about a team that you didn't necessarily root for as a kid or even like as an adult, I think a lot of the stories that I come across are surprising. Just because there's a lot of players who I didn't spend a lot of time with, right? So for me, they weren't household names. Like obviously you've got the Bobby Orrs, the Ray Borks, the Charas, like all those guys that played on the team, like about them because they're big, huge, monumental figures in hockey history. But it's, I think, finding these little stories and these little nuggets that you didn't know about. Like I think of one where, and Eddie Shore was like was a legend in his day. Like he was one of the best defensemen of his time, but he was also tough as nails. He was the one that took out Ace Bailey, who was a Leaf, and obviously Bailey never played again. And he was just that type of player who was hard nosed, and he broke his nose, I think, more times than he could count on both his hands. And I came across a story where he had been late for the team train to go to Montreal, and it was a snowstorm, but he was determined to get there, and he had hired a driver to drive him. And then through the course of the snowstorm, driving from Boston to Montreal, the car went into a ditch. And this is in like the 40s. And he ended up hiring a team of horses to drag the car to the ditch. After he got the car to the ditch, the driver was too scared to keep driving. So Shore kicked him out of the driver's side. He took over. He drove the rest of the way to Montreal, didn't sleep all night because he was driving or whatever time of the day it was, got to the rink, and he scored the only goal for Boston that game. So thank God Eddie Shore was this kind of character, and he made the trek all the way there, scored Boston's only goal, and obviously never missed the train after that. But it's those stories where about what he did in the game that night, but you don't necessarily know the journey behind what led up to that. So there's, I think, moments like that you're always like, wow, that's a different era. They don't make them like they used to. Certainly, you're not seeing that in anymore. Even when we watched hockey when we were younger, right? But Eddie Shore was a different breed. And certainly he found one way or another to get to that game.
Wow, man, that is crazy. That's a great story. Now, Bruins 365 is done. Obviously,
Yeah.
You mentioned a few other original 6 teams. We have one in the works here.
We don't have one in the works. No.
Okay.
I'm taking a break from the
Yeah, fair
365
enough.
series right now. I think we'll pick it back up at some point, but the Bruins one is the third one that I've done in 3 years. So it's been like a book a year since I started writing the Leafs in 2022. So it's been a solid commitment here, but obviously we still have 29 other teams we could do. And you're seeing news this week that, there's rumblings of the NHL expanding to 36 teams. So like I could obviously retire on the series if that's what I wanted to do, but we'll see. Yeah. Cause I mean, you could definitely do original 6 and keep that going, but there's a part of me that, maybe we do another Canadian team and just kind of go back to the original 6 later. I mean, The Oilers would be an interesting one. The Canucks, they've been around the longest in terms of any of the other Canadian teams that I haven't covered yet. So we'll see. But it's one of those ones where I think when I was done the Leafs, I was ready to keep going, and I did the Habs, and that was fine. And then when I was done the Bruins, I was like, I'm done for a little bit.
Yeah.
Like I'm done. I don't need to do anything else. And that's been a lot of fun, just kind of actually getting some more time back and just, doing things that you want to do in the evenings other than writing these stories, which again is fun. I love it, but it's also nice to have some of your own time back.
Yeah, no, definitely. No, definitely. I mean, commend, stick taps you. 3 books, 3 years. Tom, again, like I said, can barely write a text.
Paragraph.
So that's impressive, man. Yeah, big congrats.
Thanks.
Now, Steve, I'm hearing you're a big football guy. Are you big? Are you big into the NFL here?
Yeah. I had to.
He's a big Patriots fan.
No, I'm not. Let's just be clear about one thing, and that is that I'm not a Patriots fan, and I could never be convinced to be a Patriots fan. I'm a Colts fan, which makes me by definition
Indiana Jones.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I almost fantasy football almost ruined my love of football, so I'm down to one team right now. I used to manage 3 or 4 fantasy teams a year, but I'm off that now. So I'm enjoying football again. I'm enjoying watching it, and when the Colts are winning, things are good.
Yeah, fantasy football does ruin it. I'm with you,
Yeah,
Steve. Like
I
got a couple teams right now.
Me and you are last in one of the leagues.
Yeah.
Steve, and the punishment that we're doing, I don't want to say it on air, is pretty ruthless. So I'm trying my best. I'm 1-5 or 1-4. Yeah, something like that. Anyways, I'm gonna need some help. So the Colts, obviously, I would say just quickly, Al, the most to me, and I'm just getting into NFL the last couple of years, probably the most surprising story. Like, and now they're talking about them that they might go all the way, Steve. So what has what's been the most? Well, you never know. What's been the most impressive to you? Like Jonathan Taylor looks like
Danny
the best
Jones.
Yeah, well,
Danny Jones.
But Taylor looks like he's unstoppable right now.
Yeah, I think we got a really good kid with Warren at tight end too. He's reminding me a lot of like the Dallas Clark era, like when we had Dallas Clark. I think Taylor's gonna do much better. You can see his carries per game is way down because they have a passing game that's reliable, and I think if they keep JT healthy, then he'll be the bus that they ride to the playoffs. I think it doesn't hurt that the rest of the AFC South is kind of hurting right now too, so I think they'll have a bit more of a cakewalk to get in there, unless the Texans sort of turn it around. But no, it's very surprising. A guy who used to cut my hair named Cam, I saw him the other day, and it was the first time he ever wore his Jays hat and his Colts jersey at the same time. So I'm like, that's not bad to be a Jays fan and a Colts fan at the same time. But he said it's the first time he's ever been able to do that. So it's a good year.
There you go. I love to hear it. Okay, fellas. Well, before we let you go here, we always do this at the end of our interviews here. It's called the Dynamic 5. 5 rapid fire questions, whatever comes to the top of your head here. So how about we'll go order? We'll go Steve, then Mike here. So Tommy, I'll send it off to you.
All right. I think this one's pretty easy. But if you were to be a pro in any sport, what would it be?
For me, it would definitely be curling. No, I mean a football, of course. Yeah, football. 100%. I played running back / fullback. I'd love to do that again.
Nice.
There was talk of a comeback a few years ago that Mike was going to cover as a journalist, but I didn't have it in me. So
it's not too late, man.
It is. I'm 39. I'm 39 years old. Yeah, I got
do it for your 40th.
Yeah, I was in the top 10 for rushing yards for the Sudbury Spartans for my career, and then 2 snot-nosed kids knocked me out of the top 10, and I think I was about 60 yards short, so I was going to come back and see if I could get that, but whatever.
Man, what a story that would be. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it's got to be hockey. I didn't play organized much growing up, but I still somehow have dreams that I'm like scoring like big goals, and even though I've never even scored a big goal, so it's obviously it's become a part of me now. So yeah, hockey.
Yes, a good answer. I know we talked a little bit about the Jays. Are they coming back? What do we think?
Gosh, I mean, I'm trying to separate hope from reality. I would say yes if they bring the bats like they did last night, and if they I don't know. It seemed like they calmed down a lot with pitching too, which I felt good about. They weren't, although those many changes got them through that Yankees series. It looks like they might need to have more consistent pitching as well. And I think if they get those two things, well, I mean that's not earth shattering. If you pitch well and you hit well, you're going to win the game. But yeah, I think they could do it. Yeah, yes.
I say yes. I mean, I'm no stranger to the Toronto sports emotional roller coaster that you get. So I mean,
Yep.
they've got when we're talking Scherzer's pitching tonight, he's got that dog in him, and I think if he gets back into that like mode when he was with the Nationals and just like angry pitching and getting guys, then yes, I'm all for it.
I love it.
Like, isn't it the best to watch that guy tonight? Like,
Yeah.
as a Jays fan. Okay, go-to karaoke tune.
Okay,
Oh.
so you're really in my lane now because I'm a big karaoke fan. Mike knows
Let's
this.
go.
Yeah.
So it'd probably be Journey, Separate Ways, or really anything by Journey.
Yep.
Yeah, that I any of those songs.
Love that.
I'll say this because I'm not as good a singer as Steve, but there was one time me and a buddy, we did Kid Rock Ba Wata Ba at a bar in Sioux, Michigan, and I can only assume that it was horrific, but like that was
It sounded great at the time, though.
oh yeah, at the time we're like, oh wow, this is great, but I feel bad for whoever was there that night. But yeah,
That's
I'll
so
say
good.
Kid Rock just because I don't have much of a singing voice anyway.
Yeah, me and Alex had done karaoke once together too. At the time, it was a really good decision. After seeing the videos, wasn't
Yeah, you're
still
looking
good.
you're looking at each other like, are we good? Like, I think we might be able to do this, like
Yeah.
professionally. Yeah.
No more pod. We're gonna take this full
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to obviously Steve first. Still, so if it's not the Colts, who wins the Super Bowl?
Oh man. How about this? I think the Steelers could make it.
Whoa.
Okay.
And I like, but that's maybe I'll just leave it there. I think
Yeah.
the Steelers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
could
Yeah.
go.
Okay.
Okay.
And Mikey, this one obviously we're going NHL. It was sad to see as a diehard. I know you're a Leafs fan just like me to see McDavid sign 2 years, but does he finish his career as an Oiler?
I say no.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think
Mikey. Yeah.
I think he's a loyal guy, and I think if he thinks Edmonton's going to give him the best chance to win, he'll stay there. But I think for him, legacy isn't so much about like being with the same team for his entire career. It's about how many cups can I win, or at
Right.
least win one. And I think if he doesn't think he's got a good shot of that in Edmonton, I think he will go to wherever he's going to have the best possible chance.
That's crazy to think of. That he'll just go to whatever team's loaded at that time just to win. Like, but hey, I
Yeah.
respect it.
I hope he does. I mean, it would be
Yeah.
great for him to win. Obviously, it'd be great to see the Oilers finally get over that hump. But I have a hard time thinking they're going to go back for the third straight year. I'd love to see it, but it's just
Yeah, I
you know,
know.
hopefully he finds it. I was really kind of as a sick deranged Leafs fan, I was obviously hoping
Yeah, oh, yeah.
he was going to sign a 1 year or something and maybe go to Toronto. But again, I've been brought back down to earth.
Me too, Mikey. Me too. All right, last one of the Dynamic Five. Go to Sudbury restaurant.
Oh God! Again, another. I've been to them all. So go to Sudbury restaurant. Okay, I'm gonna give you a couple answers. If you want to do a fast business lunch, Cuisina. They get you in and out in an hour, like P&Ms. I think
Yeah.
they get you in and out in an hour. For old time's sake, I was a huge Eddie's guy growing up.
Oh,
So that's sort of my sister was a bartender there.
okay.
I used to go there all the time. My sister's on that mural they have in the front bar.
Yeah.
So definitely Eddie's for dinner and wings.
Did you partake in Eddie's pool at all, Steve? At times?
Like the suicide pool?
Yeah.
Yeah. Never even came close.
Yeah.
Like guessing teams that would be just a lock and they disappoint me every time. So yeah. Won't be
Yeah,
doing that again.
I know all about that. This year, I had asked Steve who I should pick. I think this was week 4 or 5, and it was the Colts are playing the Raiders, and then the team that I had picked were the Cards against the Titans.
Me too, Mikey. Me
And that
too.
was that
Same
like,
game.
Bonanza game where
Yeah.
Cards.
and I didn't change my pick because I'm like, if I pick the Colts and the Colts lose, then I'll be mad at Steve. And my gut said Cards, and so I left it with the Cards, and now I'm out of this jackpot prize. So I should have picked Indiana.
No, I know, and
Indianapolis.
the guy fumbled at the 1 yard line. Anyways,
Yeah.
yeah, that was a terrible game. What's your answer, Mikey, for the restaurant?
So our go-to was Tommy's Not Here.
Yeah.
They've since like closed down, so it's not we don't get to go there anymore. But for takeout, Rice Delicious is a big one for us. It's in New Sudbury. They do some
Dynamite.
pretty dynamite Thai food. And then again, not to be boring, but I would say like Cuisina is one of my favorite places to go for dinner in New Sudbury. Again, you always get great service, great food there. They got awesome cocktails. My wife only usually lets me get one just because they are a little bit pricey, but it's worth it.
It's true. Yeah.
There you go.
Let me say this too, though. 7-Star Dumpling House in the South End is doing some wild, authentic Chinese food. So
Okay.
touch those dumplings. They're unreal. Pan fried, not
Ooh,
you
yeah.
gotta go pan fried, not deep fried. Pan fried pork and chive, that's where it's at.
Okay, noted. Noted.
Yeah.
I like to hear that. Okay, well, listen, fellas, what an awesome chat this has been. Thank you a lot for coming on here, and congrats on all the success. And hey, if you're ever looking for a guest, we're more than happy to hop on here. So
You're
obviously,
coming to the
thanks a lot, man.
studio. We'll have you guys in the studio at Eastlink, and when we film the next season, that'll be a good time.
Let's do it. Yeah, let us know, man. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
But again,
Awesome.
we appreciate you coming on as well, Mikey. Congrats with everything with the book as
Thanks.
well. And yeah, we'll be keeping a close eye and keeping and keeping in touch here. So thanks a lot.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks, boys. Appreciate
Really
it. A lot
appreciate
of
it. It
fun.
was fun.